With its hallmark white facade, Whitehall was once one of the largest and finest homes on Maraval Road. Although the building has borne witness to times of great optimism, there are also hints of tragedy in its past. Built for cocoa plantation owner Leon Agostini in 1904, it later became the office of the Prime Minister of the newly independent Trinidad and Tobago. One of the Magnificent Seven, this iconic structure is a striking landmark along the savannah and an important part of our built heritage. At the turn of the 20th century, Trinidad's cocoa industry was thriving and fortunes were being made. The wealthy built homes to show off their success, and Whitehall was one such undertaking. Dissatisfied with the splendor of his Cobblent's house, cocoa baron Leon Agostini determined that he would build the grandest house in all Trinidad.
Leon Agostini was one of the most successful businessmen of the late 19th century. He's remembered for being the founder of the Trinidad Chamber of Commerce.
And in his second incarnation as a millionaire, decided that he would build a house worthy of his position in society. So, in its entirety, upon completion, Whitehall could have been considered one of the finest residences in the West Indies.
Whitehall was built at the then exorbitant cost of $80,000. The three-story structure was built with imported limestone from Barbados. Agostini colored the mansion with a rose-pink wash and named it Rosenweg, German for the Way of the Roses. Rosenweg was built on a grand scale to reflect Agostini's Corsican roots as well as Mediterranean architectural influences.
Whitehall has what we call a lantern light in the middle of the building, where ventilation will come in on the ground floor and rise up through the middle of the building where the stairwell was and go up to the roof and create convection. It's so designed on tropical lines. It really works for the tropics. There's proper cross ventilation, there are high ceilings, and the wraparound verandas that are so common and so workable here in the Caribbean.
The drawing room was done in the French style, decorated in Wedgwood blue with eternity mirrors to reflect the chandeliers and the grand rooms. The ceilings were hand-painted, and Italian craftsmen were responsible for the delicate gesso work. The same craftsmen did the gesso in the Red House. For the dining room, Agostini's daughters helped design wallpaper with a raised pomegranate motif meant to resemble leather. Behind the main house were servants' quarters, stables, and a coach house. By the time Leon Agostini died in 1906, his family's fortunes were in decline. Restoration architects agree that differences in the structure of the building suggest he may have had to cut costs because he was running out of money. In fact, Agostini sold Cobblent's house to be able to complete Whitehall. In spite of his Herculean efforts, within 4 years of Agostini's death, his beloved Rosenweg was in foreclosure. Some say the house is haunted by his ghost, who sits on the veranda lamenting his loss. Between 1910 and 1940, the house, which was renamed Whitehall, was owned by the Seebalub family and the Hendersons. The Seebalups were very social and known for their lavish parties.
And they used to use a terrace on the roof for their parties. And there's stories that I've heard where they said that the parties went on very late and they were able to see the donkey carts with their flambeaux going down to the market in Port of Spain on the savannah.
At the start of World War II, Whitehall was commandeered by the United States forces, and from 1940 to 1944, it was home to the air raid precautions. Following the war, several organizations rented or occupied space in the building, including the Trinidad Arts Society, Trinidad Central Library, and the Government Broadcasting Unit. In 1954, Whitehall was purchased by the Trinidad and Tobago government and became a key location during the period of Federation, where the pre-federal interim government was housed, and later, Trinidad and Tobago's first Prime Minister, Eric Williams, made it his office, as did every other Prime Minister. But since then Prime Minister Patrick Manning vacated the premises in 2009, Whitehall has been empty. Although extensive restoration work was done on Whitehall at the end of the 1990s, without an active occupant, it has once again been allowed to fall into disrepair.
I think one of the major problems is that no maintenance work is carried out on these buildings. So, basically, they deteriorate, as any building will, to the point where it's noticeable and serious damage can be and has been caused.
Whitehall tells a complicated tale made up of many parts. It was a source of financial despair to the Agostini family, but eventually found a place of importance as the office of the Prime Minister. Built in the glory days of the plantocracy, Whitehall also stood through the decline of cocoa. It heralded a period of nationalism and optimism, housing one of the most important offices in Trinidad and Tobago. Whitehall is a jewel in our built and social heritage.